listening to Clutch with Keon Rose and AM 1240 92.7 FM, and I have a lot of things to say about LSU. A lot of things to say, because I listen to people talk about LSU, and we don't know how high LSU's ceiling is, right? Which is fair. That's a very fair comment to make, because LSU struggled mightily scoring points. We're sure that they're going to be very effective running the football with Darius Geis. We're not so sure how good they're going to be passing the football with Danny Etling, who looked okay last year, right? And Matt Canada's shown up, and Matt Canada's got a reputation of being the quarterback whisperer. So, does it work? Is he going to fix Danny Etling? Is he going to make Danny Etling, good? We don't know, right? Like, that's one of the things that people have a lot of questions about. And I think that that's a perfectly fair thing for people to have questions about. My problem with people's opinions on LSU and on Danny Etling specifically is that people treat Danny Etling like he's a trash quarterback. Now, that's insane. That's ridiculous, right? He's not great. And if you had to rank a bunch of quarterbacks from the SEC this year, right? Like, Danny Etling would be right around the middle. He would be right around the middle, because you got a lot of freshmen who might wind up playing. You got a lot of guys that don't have nearly the experience that he has that might wind up playing. But Danny Etling's all right. He's an average quarterback. He does average quarterback things. But I was watching John Gruden's QB camp, because I have some that I still haven't seen. Before the draft, I watched the ones on all the quarterbacks I cared about. So I watched, I watched the Deshaun Watson and the Deshaun Kaiser and Brad Kaya and Josh Dobbs and all the quarterbacks that people were raving about and thinking, hey, this guy might be really great. And nobody was talking about a person that Tennessee fans might be somewhat familiar with, Nathan Peterman. Nathan Peterman, who used to be the Vols quarterback before Josh Dobbs came and stole up his job. And then Nathan Peterman had to transfer on out to Pitt. Nathan Peterman, who before Josh Dobbs came in and stole up his job, was a hot flaming pile of garbage. Like, just interceptions that you would not understand how a person could throw them. Like, he would throw some of the worst interceptions, and you would just think to yourself, like, man, there is nobody in orange where you threw the ball. Why are you throwing it over there? So he graduates from Tennessee, graduate transfers over to Pitt. And you know what? He was really good at Pitt. Nobody gave Pitt an opportunity. Pitt went out there last year, and I don't know if you remember this, but they beat Clemson, right? Like, one of the bad Clemson games that we talk about is when the Pitt Panthers rolled up in South Carolina and beat them, right? Walked up in Death Valley and just beat them. And it wasn't a close situation. It was one of those handy butt whoopings. Especially when you talk about, like, how overt it was. Like, just passing the ball over them, jet sweeps all day. And Matt Canada was the man behind that, right? And Nathan Peterman was the quarterback involved. And somewhere between Tennessee and Pitt, Nathan Peterman got to be not garbage, right? He got to be a pretty competent quarterback to the point where he does get drafted in the NFL. And by the way, when you talk to scouts about Nathan Peterman, he's the guy that's the most pro ready in terms of his form. His footwork and his accuracy are amazing, right? Like, Nathan Peterman, miles ahead of the rest of the competition. The reason why he's not taken first, obviously, is because the ceiling is much, much lower than any of these other guys. But Nathan Peterman came out of college, like, ready to go. And Matt Canada earned his reputation right there as being the quarterback whisperer. Because if you saw Nathan Peterman at Tennessee and then saw him again at Pitt, you would swear you were talking about a different guy. Right? Here's a guy with more poise, a guy who knows all of his options, who understands his offense. Very accurate thrower of the football. And so Danny Etling at LSU is an average quarterback. Very average. But Matt Canada's offense is kind of steroids for quarterbacks. Now, part of it, too, is the jet sweeps. The jet sweeps are kind of vicious. Okay, and they understand how to use those. And if you have a running back like Darius Geis, you only really need some kind of very fast receiver and a quarterback with a decent amount of mobility, which Etling definitely has. He's more of a long strider. He's a big, tall guy with long legs. But he's not a trash quarterback. And I feel like the ceiling for LSU is a lot higher than many of you think. It's a lot higher. You're wondering how many games they can win with Danny Etling. Well, he's not going to ever be a world beater. If LSU needs Danny Etling to throw on the cape, put the team on his back, and carry them, it ain't ever going to happen. You're more liable to win the lottery before that happens. But if they need Danny Etling to steady the ship and get this team up the field to score points, he might do all right. He might do all right. Like, he doesn't have to be a playmaker. He just has to be pretty good. He just has to be pretty good. Not really good, pretty good. And I think he's all right. Right? Like, Danny Etling is a guy that you do strongly wonder how it is that he is a quarterback, given that he is so powerfully average. But I think powerfully average quarterback is better than quarterback who stinks, right? We've seen that, right? We've seen the Brandon Harris experiment where you've got a quarterback with a lot of physical tools, a lot of physical abilities, but for some strange reason, he can't do the thing that a quarterback's supposed to be able to do, which is throw the ball down the field with any degree of accuracy, consistency, and what have you. That's what you really wanted from him. With Danny Etling, you at least get that, right? Now, it's not going to be very far down the field. He doesn't have the strongest arm on earth. And when he runs, when he takes off, he's not the most athletic guy either, but he's athletic enough. And Matt Canada offenses provide quarterbacks a way to use their mobility. Like, Nathan Peterman's not the fastest guy, but you watch some of those plays, they have like a triple option play that they run, and Nathan Peterman is gashing people. Absolutely gashing people. And I don't think that it's unreasonable to compare Nathan Peterman to Danny Etling, because when Nathan Peterman, when last we saw him before he was in Pitt, was awful. Not just bad or kind of bad. He was dreadful. He was absolutely dreadful. And then we see him again in Pitt, and he's beating Clemson? He's beating the national champions? Like, how is that possible? He's beaten Penn State, who a lot of people thought should have been in the college football playoff. Well, how is that possible? Matt Canada, man. Matt Canada. I mean, I feel like you might be getting more from him. Now, granted, how long does it take before this stuff gets instituted into everything, right? That's the question to ask. But really, it's going to be, to me, it's going to be a more amazing season for LSU than what you're expecting. I don't know if LSU is going to be capable of beating Alabama, but put it this way. LSU could have beaten Alabama last year if they could have ever scored points, right? And it's possible to score points on Alabama because, Clemson did it. So there's one. Ole Miss did it. There's another one. Arkansas did it. There's another one. Like, you can score points on Alabama. And by the way, to beat Alabama last year, LSU didn't need to score lots of points. They just needed to score more than 3, right? Like they were beaten 6-3. I feel like if they scored 10, they could have won that game. They just needed to score more than 3. Like, their defense was just holding off against Jalen Hurts the entire time. Right? That's not useful. That's not useful at all. I was looking at it and I was like, man, this is a dreadful football game. And it's the Alabama LSU game that we've grown accustomed to watching, right? And we've grown accustomed to watching that game like it's normal. Like, Nick Saban is okay beating you 6-3, which is the reason why he doesn't ever get aggressive in games against LSU, because we know LSU's got a really good defense. My problem with all of that very much is this. How on earth is it that Nick Saban can play so conservatively against LSU, but LSU can't ever get more aggressive against Alabama? I feel like when you have Matt Canada, things are going to get a little bit better and a little bit easier for you. Also, because we're talking about Matt Canada, you know what time it is.
Bang, 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 bang. Bang, 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 bang. Bang, bang, there we go. Bang, 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 bang. Good job. Bang, bang. Woo, there he goes. Bang, 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 bang. Oh, not bad.
There you go. That's Matt Canada coaching, by the way. Matt Canada says the word bang a lot. It's his favorite word, apparently. Those are all separate times of him saying that. Because that's not a loop. Matt Canada just says the word bang a lot when he coaches. Every time we talk about Matt Canada, it's bang time. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240, 92.7 FM. Make sure to check us out on our website, noogaradio.com. You get access to all of our social media, our Facebook, our Twitter, and our YouTube page as well. We'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line or call us at our phone number. That is 800-8949-423-800-8949. So one more point about the Cavs and the Warriors before we roll into anything else. It seems to me whenever LeBron gets beaten in an NBA Finals, whenever it happens, it's the most interesting thing you've ever seen. I feel like only LeBron could give you an interesting beatdown, even if he is on the wrong side of said beatdown. Because the ramifications of LeBron's greatness are that we are constantly finding a way to judge it. Right? Those are the ramifications of LeBron's greatness, is that we're always finding a way to judge it. And at the same time, you beat the king, you get to be the king. Right? Like beating LeBron James makes you great. It puts you in a different place historically. And you don't have to look any further than Dirk Nowitzki, who is considered one of the greatest NBA players of all time. And we always should have considered him that way. But Dirk doesn't exactly have the game that screams greatest, right? Even though he's got an unblockable fadeaway jumper because he is 7 feet tall and is sort of like the proto Kevin Durant. He can't dribble or handle or move in any particular way, but his scoring is so lethal, you have to always figure out how to get the ball out of his hands. And we were never going to consider Dirk one of the greatest. And now we have to figure out where to put Dirk in the pantheon of everything, because Dirk won a ring, but he didn't just win a ring. He won that ring against LeBron. He won that ring against LeBron. And so now you've got to figure out in this whole pantheon, where do you put Dirk in terms of greatness? And now we have to do it again, right? We have to figure it out with Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan won his 5th and final ring against LeBron. Tim Duncan was already considered one of the greatest. Once he got that extra ring, now it's like we have the big man conversation, and the big man conversation really used to be Kareem, Wilt, and Shaq. And now you have to kind of just toss Duncan in there because he's got 5. And 5th was against LeBron. Right? Like you've got to consider it now. And the Warriors are about to have this happen to them, right? Like on some level, we're going to be able to forgive Kevin Durant for what it was that he did. Not that what he did requires forgiveness on any level, really, because he didn't do anything wrong. But people who think that he did something wrong will be able to forgive Kevin Durant in some large part because he beat LeBron James. Like if you thought that these Warriors, like, okay, let's put it this way. The Warriors won 73 games last year. If you thought that these Warriors were a great team and didn't need Kevin Durant to win this series, when you see what happens last night, right, then you do come to some kind of realization that it feels like they needed Kevin Durant to win this series. It certainly feels that way. That they absolutely needed KD to win. Right? And also, by the way, people speak out of both sides of their mouth on this issue all the time. The Warriors win 73 games, don't win a title. And what is it that I hear all the time? It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. If you don't win a championship, 73 games means nothing. It's not a great accomplishment because it didn't end in a title. Even Michael Jordan said 73-9 means nothing without a title, right? Because the Bulls, of course, Michael Jordan's a little bit salty on that when Michael Jordan was on the 72-win team, previously had the best regular season record in the history of the NBA. But they capped that off with a championship. So you look at it and you go, okay, I mean, I hear where you all are coming from. But then they add Kevin Durant, and all of a sudden people are going, no, that's unfair. They added Kevin Durant to a 73-win team. Oh, really? I thought 73 wins didn't mean anything. Oh, now it means something? Oh, it means something now? They add a great player, and now it means something. But before, because it didn't end in a title, it didn't mean anything. This is the valley that you trap yourself in when you refuse to talk about these things with any particular nuance at all, right? There were some people earlier this season who thought to themselves, the Warriors actually might have been better off without Kevin Durant, right? There were some people who honestly believed that he showed up and he took over the team. He sort of relegated Steph Curry to a support role, which is also not true, but regardless, and by doing so, he made the team worse, which is insane. Absolutely insane if you watched any of those games whatsoever. They figured out how to gel. And yeah, guys gave up shots. Because you have a great scorer like that coming in, you obviously have to give up shots. Right? Like there is no magic elixir to making this kind of thing work. And everyone acts like, oh, you just throw a bunch of stars together. This is going to be great. You throw a bunch of stars together and it's automatic victories. But tell that to the Miami Heat in 2010 when they were struggling to start the season. It does take a level of unselfishness to be able to gel this whole thing together and to be able to blend your playing styles and to be able to do less of what you like to do so someone else can do more of what they need to do to help the team win. Like, this is fundamental, prototypical, unselfish team basketball. We hate it. We hate it, right? And people are like, well, it's about to start a plague of super teams. It might, but people are going to learn the lesson of super teams very, very quickly. This does not always work out because people do not always mesh well, right? People don't have problems giving up their shots at the All-Star game. It's the All-Star game. Doesn't mean anything. But people have problems giving up their shots in the regular season. They absolutely do. People have problems giving up their shots in the regular season. Right? That's what's made, to me, that's what's been the most amazing and the most effective part of this whole transition. Because my girlfriend was telling me the other day, like, what's going to stop a bunch of guys from getting together on one team and trying to form a super team, really? And I was like, nothing's going to stop it from happening. But there's no guarantee that it works anywhere near as good as it does right now with the Warriors. Like, it very specifically works with the Warriors because Kevin Durant is a guy that is a very versatile player. He doesn't have to have the ball in his hands to score and dominate. He doesn't necessarily need to be the guy dribbling all the time, creating plays for his teammates. I think he prefers coming off the ball. But when he needs to step up and be that guy, he can still be that guy. He's got that in him. When you look at other guys around the league, like if you threw together a bunch of star players, like hypothetically toss out the salary cap, right, and just threw together a bunch of stars, like understand that makes in no way does that work necessarily, especially with a lot of these ball dominant guys. Like, seriously, are there that many guys in the league that if you threw them together, they're a championship team? If you take into account their play styles? No, there isn't. I mean, can we face it? We don't have a super team epidemic. We have the Warriors. There's not going to be a bunch of teams forming together. You can try, right? Like, I think that LeBron James and Paul George, they should try, right? Offer offer the Pacers a chance to get something for Paul. But, like, there's no guarantee that the Cavs get Paul George and this works. None whatsoever. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM.
Competent, kind, caring, knowledgeable, experienced, great listener, great negotiator, in touch, accessible. If these are the characteristics you want and need in a realtor, you want and need Thomas DeMoss of Keller Williams Realty. Thomas is a very gifted realtor who puts the client's needs first. Whether you're buying or selling a home, Thomas is the realtor of choice. Thomas will help and guide you through each step of this very important process. For many of us, the purchase of a home is one of our largest investments and most important family and financial decision. Let Thomas use his 10 years of experience in the Chattanooga real estate market to give you the advantage you need when buying or selling a home. Buying a house? Thomas can help you navigate the emotional and somewhat anxious process of buying a home. For those of you who want to sell a house, Thomas uses his marketing and negotiating experience to help you sell your home for top dollar. Thomas is a local resident, raising his family here in Hamilton County. He knows the area very well. For many agents, real estate is a job. With Thomas DeMoss, it's a passion and what he loves to do. Call Thomas today for a no-obligation consultation. He makes the process as simple as possible. Call 423-364-0028 and visit his website, northriverpropertygroup.com.
Picture that curl of steam rising from your fresh-made pizza. And in a flash, let it take you aloft, teasing all your senses. I'm talking about Jet's Pizza. If you eat out at Jet's in Hickson or take home your steaming deep dish square pizza, you'll love Jet's. They use only the best ingredients in a family recipe. Also try the cheesy bread, wings, chicken, or bread with bacon, antipasta or Greek salad. Jet's Pizza at Buy Low near the S-Curves. Open till 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday. You can order online or have it delivered. jetspizza.com. That's jetspizza.com. Or call them now. They'll have it ready when you get there. 757-1616. That's 757-1616.
Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
Final expenses, funeral cost, cemetery lots, unpaid medical bills, probate cost, debts. Debts are due and payable upon death of debtor. Will these costs produce a burden and hardship on your loved ones? Who will be responsible? How will they handle them? These costs can total many thousands of dollars, only compounded greater with the grief of losing a family member. A safe and secure way to provide for these costs is with an affordable life insurance from Covenant Group Insurance and Financial Services. Covenant Group is a local company with local agents. Covenant Group still makes house calls. Covenant Group only represents A-rated companies. With many options to offer, Covenant Group can accommodate almost any budget. Great discounts for good health and plans available for impaired risk. Call today for a free, no-obligation consultation in the convenience of your home. Call Steve or Jada at 423-855-8484. Call today, 423-855-8484. Are you looking for a gospel-oriented, covenantal, family-friendly Reformed church? Dayton Reformed Presbyterian Church is a body of Christ-centered believers gathering for worship on the Lord's Day from around southeastern Tennessee. Our congregation is reformational in its outlook. It has a traditional worship service regulated by the Word of God. Prayer, singing the Psalms, reading God's holy Word, teaching, preaching the Bible, the administration of the sacrament. Dayton Reformed Pres, committed to the authority of the Bible as the inerrant, infallible Word of God. As Westminster Confession of Faith directs every Christian, we aim to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. As a Reformed church, our purpose is teaching and preaching the gospel, making and training disciples of Jesus Christ, taking dominion for our Lord's sake by applying God's holy and perfect law to every area of life. We would be honored to have you join us for worship. Dayton Reformed Presbyterian, this Sunday morning at 11 at Dayton Community Chapel, 184 Mulberry Avenue, Dayton. Click DaytonRPC.org. Click DaytonRPC.org. 184 Mulberry Avenue, Dayton.
It is Eric Jones hard into the outside wall, and they are still 3 and 4 wide. It looks like we're racing at Talladega.
Caution flag is out. It looked like Denny Hamlin was trying to get by Ricky Stenhouse. Got into the back of Ricky at the line. Man, that's a close one. Matt Kenseth wins stage 1.
Green checkered flag is out, and Brad Keselowski has won Stage 2.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. into the wall that will bring out the caution. Caution waving once again. And again, it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. involved.
Oh, trouble. Ty Dillon has gotten turned to the inside of the racetrack, and Clint Boyer has just nailed him.
Matt Kenseth falling back. The field storming by. Something wrong. Now we see sparks from Kenseth's Toyota.
Larson chops him off. Coming off turn number 2. Goes to tail. Now it's Logano to the high side in 3.
Joey Logano, a winner here at the Richmond International Raceway.
Hear it live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM.
The voice of NASCAR.
WBLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga, WSDT Saudi Daisy Chattanooga.
James Comey, in his own words, on the president and Russia.
Lordy, I hope there are tapes.
You said you would be loyally honest.
Honestly loyal.
And after Comey sat before senators,
the president feels completely vindicated.
This is the CBS World News Roundup Late Edition. I'm Dave Barrett.
And I'm Steve Dorsey on Capitol Hill.
Fired just about a month ago. He had his say today.
Director Comey, I appreciate your willingness to appear before the committee today.
James Comey was the focus of attention in Washington today. Covering at the Capitol, CBS's Steve Dorsey.
Those were lies. Plain and simple.
In a crowded but hushed hearing room, former FBI Director James Comey testified to the Senate Intelligence Committee the Trump administration lied about why he was fired.
The administration then chose to defame me and, more importantly, the FBI by saying that the organization was in disarray, that it was poorly led, that the workforce had lost confidence in its leader.
Comey says he was fired to change the course of the Russia investigation. But Comey stopped short of saying publicly the president had done anything illegal.
Do you believe Donald Trump colluded with Russia?
It's a question I don't think I should answer in an open setting.
Comey says the president also directed him to drop the investigation of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, which he ignored but didn't challenge.
Why didn't you stop and say, Mr. President, this is wrong. I cannot discuss this with you?
It's a great question. Maybe if I were stronger, I would have.
Now to CBS's Stephen Portnoy at the White House with more.
Directly refuting James Comey's sworn testimony, the president's personal attorney, Mark Kasowitz, insisted his client didn't urge Comey to drop the Flynn matter.
He never said it in form, and he never said it in substance.
Kasowitz also denies Mr. Trump demanded Comey's loyalty. He blasted the former FBI director for seeing to it that his accounts of his conversations with the president wound up in reporters' hands.
Mr. Comey has now admitted that he is one of these leakers.
Dave?
John Dickerson is our chief Washington correspondent, host of CBS's Face the Nation. And John, we heard from James Comey about being lied to by President Trump. He said if there are tapes backing up the one-on-one Oval Office meeting, those should come out.
There were two big takeaways. One was the question of the legal jeopardy the president may be in. And it's not really legal. It's mostly political, because if anything were to happen to the president, it would have to happen through Congress. The law seems to suggest that you can't prosecute a president. There is some room for Republicans to defend the president, basically arguing that what they heard today was some boorish behavior by the president, but nothing that gets all the way up to obstruction, where you have to have the president asking for something to be put away and where you know the intent in his mind.
Wall Street, the Dow gained 8. Now this.
Greta is a drill instructor.
On your feet and negotiate this obstacle.
Yes, ma'am.
When it comes to training lean, mean fighting machines, she doesn't mess around.
I do not have all day, people.
But in her free time, Greta's an amazing poet, and she knows it.
The green grass, it whispers to me like an ancient firefly.
Look at her throw those verses with confidence. But when it comes to getting a mortgage, Greta's less confident.
A little help here?
Fortunately for Greta, there's Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. It's simple, so she can understand the details and know she's getting the right mortgage.
My confidence. It's returned like a jealous lover on a rainy night.
Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently. Go to rocketmortgage.com today.
Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
House members busy today.
On this vote, the yeas are 233, the nays are 186. The bill is passed.
They voted largely along party lines to dismantle the Dodd-Frank law, a major banking measure passed after the financial crisis of 2008, a crisis brought on by risky lending practices. Overseas, 650 members of Britain's parliament hoping to win their seats. It's after Prime Minister Theresa May called a snap election. Correspondent Mark Phillips.
She went into this looking for a huge mandate of popular support in order to go to negotiate with the Europeans on the terms of how the UK will leave the EU. Now she's in a position where she looks extremely weak.
Exit polls show May's party won't win a majority. Back home, 118 straight weeks now, the jobless benefits claims have been under 300,000. Another sign that the economy is healthy. Last week, claims were down by 10,000 to 245,000. You're listening to the CBS
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
7 have been arrested by the Chattanooga Police Department's Special Victims Unit. They've been conducting a major sweep, tracking down individuals who have outstanding warrants. 7 have been taken in so far, and 6 are still on the loose. A possible blow to short-term rental services like Airbnb, this time in Lookout Mountain, Georgia, where officials are proposing to allow a home-sharing program, but not short-term vacation rentals. Public hearing is set for Tuesday at 5 p.m. next week at the Lookout Mountain City Hall. The proposal would double down on the ban on short-term vacation rental services. Riverside Drive in between Market Street and West Martin Luther King Boulevard still facing closures while repairs are being made. Tennessee company Madison Mill is recalling some 25,000 fold-away safety gates for kids because of a risk of strangulation. Models 23 and 25 affected. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Becoming fair out there through your nighttime hours. Comfortable again overnight, lows into the upper 50s. For Friday, another very nice day. Lots of sunshine, highs settling into the lower 80s. For the weekend, more sunshine, dry, but getting hotter with highs upper 80s to near 90. It's time for Riverbend, starting this Friday with discounted admission now at area Circle K locations and savings on tokens at Food City. And with more information, their website, riverbendfestival.com. And I'm Source 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree. Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM, and 95.3 HD4. News, talk, sports. Nooga Radio.
Hello, Chattanooga. You're listening to Watch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. We're on NoogaRadio.com as well. Check it out. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Where else? You can find me on Twitter at SportsCloud. I start fights on Twitter. I enjoy it. I like it a lot. So I had internet fights last night, and it felt very good because no one has a really good reason to hate Kevin Durant the way that they hate Kevin Durant. Though it was nice to see him finally getting some praise online. Like there is a level of NBA fandom that believes that Kevin Durant showed up to ride the coattails of the Warriors. Though if you call being their leading scorer and playmaker as well as clutch performer being a guy riding coattails, sure. Yes, you are also an idiot, but if that's what you want to believe, then fine. But the vitriol out there is kind of insane, right? And so I was listening to some LeBron post-game interview stuff from last night, and LeBron said an interesting thing. Like, a reporter asked him if it was unfair that the Warriors have Kevin Durant, which I think we all know the answer to that question. Of course it is. But LeBron said, that's just sports. Like, that, if you have the money to sign a guy and you can make it work financially, yeah, you go ahead and you make it work. Of course you make it work. What are you talking about? Yes. How in any way is that unfair? And the example that LeBron used, which I think is a fantastic example. In fact, it's an even better example than I think LeBron realized that it was it fair for Deion Sanders to go to the Cowboys? Was it fair for Deion to go to the Cowboys? Of course it wasn't, right? The Cowboys had the triplets, Aikman, Emmett, Irvin, and they had a solid defense. They had a great offensive line. It was a great football team that had gone to the Super Bowl the year before. Now, here's what makes Deion's trip down to Dallas. Here's what makes Deion's trip wildly more fascinating than Kevin Durant's trip, right? So, Kevin Durant, his trip went, oh, the Warriors beat my team last year. Now I'm joining them. Deion's trip went, my team just beat them in the Super Bowl or in the NFC title game to go on and win a Super Bowl, and now I'm joining them. Like, we won our matchup against them, and I'm joining them. Which is the most mind-boggling thing. Like, if you call Kevin Durant's move to Golden State a punk move, what on earth do you call Deion's move? He won. Then he went to the Cowboys, and then he won again. Then he won again. Right? Like, and that's totally unfair. It's absolutely unfair because, like, the Cowboys were already great. Like, the Cowboys probably could have gotten to the Super Bowl without adding Deion. They add Deion, meaning that they more or less eliminate the 49ers as competition in that particular aspect, and they get better and definitely go to the Super Bowl. Right? Granted, we are talking about a guy in Deion Sanders who was very much a wild card, right? Like, he went from Atlanta to San Francisco to Dallas, and in his spare time, he was playing baseball, playing in a World Series, the only player to ever play in a Super Bowl and a World Series. Like, Deion was kind of crazy, granted. But how unfair is that? Like, we've never complained about it at this level before. We've never complained about it at this level before. And I hate how people act like super teams didn't exist. Super teams exist. And you want to know how I know that super teams have always existed? The number of players that have come out to let us all know that they too could have beaten these 2017 Warriors. To the point where it's a little bit dizzy, right? Had Moses Malone the other day come out and say, well, we could have beaten these Warriors. Dr. J, well, we could have beaten these Warriors. The 2001 Lakers, we could have beaten these Warriors. Was it Raja Bell? My goodness. The Detroit Pistons, and not the 80s Detroit Pistons, even though Isaiah Thomas said that they would beat the Warriors too. The 2004 Pistons with Rip Hamilton. Oh, yeah, no, we could have beaten these Warriors. Like, at this point, who couldn't have beaten these Warriors, right? Are you just all lining up for some kind of award? Because unless you got a time machine, you are wasting your breath and my time. Why is this relevant in any way? Right? And I understand the Vegas did the hypothetical, could these Warriors beat the 96 Bulls, and then they determined that the Warriors could beat the 96 Bulls, which is a silly thing to have a conversation about. Because, like, all we're doing is comparing the numbers. If you go by the numbers, then yes, the Warriors could have beaten the Bulls if you just go straight by numbers, right? But you know who else could have beaten the 96 Bulls if you just go straight off of numbers? Like a lot of the teams that made the playoffs this year. Because they all shoot more threes than the 96 Bulls ever would have tried. Do you know why? Because in 1996, you would never have dreamed of attempting like, oh, let's shoot 10 threes in a game, right? Kyrie Irving was 0 for 7 last night. He would never dream of going 0 for 7 from 3. Like, once you're 0 for 4, people are looking at you like, hey, it's time to shut it down there, buddy. You get to the basket or you get out of the ball game. They never dreamed about it. But that's only if you compare the numbers. But we don't ever think about the obvious logistical stuff about this. Which NBA are we playing in? In which direction does this time machine work? Are we bringing the Bulls to the future? Or are we sending the Warriors to the past? Because if we send the Warriors to the past with past NBA officials and past NBA referees and past NBA rules, the Warriors catch that beat down from the Bulls, right? There isn't anything that Steph Curry could do on a basketball court without him getting smacked in the mouth. And none of those things would be called as fouls. Not a one. They could beat you up back then. And they did. Absolutely destroy you. Granted, you bring the 96 Bulls from the past to the future. Now what? You have a team that needs to adapt to shooting threes, right? You've got Dennis Rodman. The Dennis Rodman-Draymond Green matchup would be A, glorious. But B, Draymond is Dennis Rodman, except he can do more things. I think the 2017 Warriors beat the Bulls to death if you play in 2017. And I think the 96 Bulls beat the Warriors to death if you play in 1996 without accounting for the differences in the rules and the times and what was a foul and what wasn't a foul. Like, without accounting for these things, that's a stupid proclamation to make, right? So, like, Vegas started this whole thing, and it hasn't stopped. It's all a bunch of old dudes from the past coming out, talking about how their team could have beaten these Warriors also. And, yes, maybe. But who cares? Who honestly cares, right? Like, there's only one team that we really cared about the answer about that from, and that was the 96 Bulls. Because we do regard the 96 Bulls to be the greatest basketball team of all time. That was their best season statistically. That was their best season in terms of record. I mean, that's the 96 Bulls. So, of course, that's the team we care about. And with, like, no disrespect to Dr. J or Magic Johnson or Isaiah Thomas or all of these other NBA greats. No disrespect to them, but we're really not all that concerned as to whether or not you could beat the 2017 Warriors. Like, we're really just not that concerned. We really want to confirm that the team we consider to be the greatest can do it, right? But if all of these teams feel like they can do it, then they must have been really talented, right? Some would even say super, possibly. Dare I say it? Yeah, because some of these teams would have been super teams. First of all, if you were alive and watching basketball obsessively in the 80s, you were sitting down watching super teams. You realize that the league was pretty much just run by the Celtics and the Lakers. And why was the league run by the Celtics and the Lakers? Oh, yeah, they were super teams. They were super teams because if you were a fan of the Celtics, you were watching Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and Casey Jones and John Havlicek. You were watching like one of the greatest teams of all time, the greatest collection of players that walked this earth, dominate. And the only reason why they didn't dominate for the entirety of the 80s was because they existed in the same time period as the 80s Lakers that had James Worthy and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson. Like, they were super teams. Like, most of their starters are Hall of Famers. Hall of Famers. Okay? I mean, we're not talking about some team. I just don't understand. Like, we're not just talking about some scrub team that had some great players. Both of these teams were super teams back in the day. You just didn't care back in the day. And do you know why? Because you didn't have satellite TV. You didn't have the internet. Okay? We're so overly concerned in today's age about how fair it is to the rest of the league. In 1984, you couldn't see the rest of the league. There was no such thing as NBA League Pass. Why do we care so much that the Milwaukee Bucks have a chance? Milwaukee Bucks didn't have a chance in the 80s either. You just didn't care. You couldn't see them. Right? Like now you see everybody and you get to go take a look at the Magic and go, oh, that's a train wreck. We should probably do something about that. Probably fix that somehow. Like when a team was terrible, you did not see them before. That's why it didn't seem to matter. Now you see everybody and it's like, oh, Kevin Durant could have helped a team get better. So he didn't. Neither did Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley left the Phoenix Suns, and at that point in his career, he was very much chasing a ring. He joined Hakeem Olajuwon. What, you think he wanted to make the league better? He was trying to get a ring, which is perfectly acceptable and fine, except Kevin Durant doesn't. It's some sort of crime, right? Like, it's not the softest move ever. Your job is a great job. If I offered you a better job, you'd take it. You'd absolutely take it. I don't understand the logic behind it. But yeah, all these retired NBA players. Like, I'm not even saying some of you all are wrong, right? Like, I definitely think the 96 Bulls have a point in being offended. Vegas doesn't think they'd win a single game against the 2017 Warriors. Like, I get it. If you're Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, that's laughable to you, right? And anybody who's ever watched Hakeem Olajuwon play, and Hakeem Olajuwon was that dude, okay? Yeah. Anybody who's ever watched Hakeem Olajuwon play, the idea that the 2017 Warriors would be beating any Hakeem Olajuwon championship team is kind of insane. The Warriors would not have answers for what that is. And by the way, the Rockets in the 90s were the team that was shooting a lot of threes. If you asked them to just simply shoot more threes, they could definitely hang with the Warriors. Like, there are some teams that they're mad, and it's like, okay, I did want to hear your input. But like Isaiah Thomas talking about how, well, the rules favor the little guy in today's league. I'd have more championships. I guess, but who asked you? Like, I'm not saying you're wrong, but who asked you? Where did you all come from? Like, older NBA players are crawling out of the woodworks to come and pop in and just weigh in and just let you know, hey, I just want to let you know, we could have beaten them too. And you know what that makes you seem like? Salty. It makes you seem salty. It's too much. Back down. Like, if you know you were great, like, we're always going to remember you as a great team. Like, who's going to look at Dr. J and go, yeah, you would absolutely get smoked. And it's hard to compare eras, right? And this is the part where the conversation just gets stupid, is Vegas did the stupid thing that Vegas did and compared stats and came out with, oh, the Warriors are better, which is insane without accounting for era, right? Because, like, points in the NBA have gone through in an inflationary period. It's inflation, right? Inflation causes the value of the dollar to go down. Inflation causes the value of points to go down. The points that the Bulls were scoring were harder to come by than the points that the Warriors are scoring. And they lead the league in threes. They've got the best three-point shooters in the world. And at some point, the value of the two-point shot ends up getting diminished. So, of course, you look at it and you go, yeah, 2017 Warriors ought to win. But you're not going to get those shots if you take 2017 Golden State and transport them back in time to 1996. You've got to account for eras, and it's hard to compare eras. It is, right? Not only is it hard to compare eras because of the rules, but how the rules get enforced, right? The way that guys do crossovers and things in the NBA today would be carrying in the NBA in the past, right? Like, guys get to dribble, putting their hands on the side of the ball. You couldn't do that back in
1965. Like Oscar Robertson would not have ever had the crossover that Kyrie Irving has. That's not his fault. That was his era. When you're trying to compare eras, how do you even do that? And how come no one, absolutely no one, has identified this as the stupidest conversation of all time? How's that not happened yet? It's absolutely insane. It's crazy. Yeah, LeBron seems cool with the idea of Kevin Durant joining the Warriors because, I mean, if you have the cap space to do it, you would do it. The idea that everybody has to make everything fair, and that's the thing that's craziest to me too, right? Is here is a guy who does something in his own best interest, and everybody wants to make everything fair. Like, what kind of socialism is that? Right? You have this whole way of mocking millennials for everybody gets a trophy and everybody gets this. Kevin Durant goes to Golden State and oh no, he's made the league unfair. Everybody's got to have a superstar. Everybody's got to have a chance. No, they don't. If you had a coach that ran an interesting system and some good players on your team, maybe he goes to you. What? It's not his fault your team looks entirely undesirable to play for. Like, why would you ever play for Dallas? Why would you ever play for Orlando? Right? Like, you see the Wizards have no bench. Why would you ever play for Washington? Right? Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are very good players, but they don't seem to play off of each other very well. Why would you ever go to Portland? Like, it's silly. It's absolutely silly. But everybody's got to have a superstar. It's got to be fair. Why didn't he go somewhere else to try to make the league better? Because you play sports for yourself. This is just flat out selfishness on the part of fans. This idea that players don't go where they want to go, they go where you want them to go. And that's not even real life. There's nothing in life that works that way. And if it does, you've got a problem, right? Like I got into broadcasting, and at first, my mom said no. And she said no because she was like, well, why don't you do something that makes some money? Because the whole broadcasting bit does not make money early on. It's a very not making money thing that happens in the beginning stages of this job, which I totally understand. But I have to make my own decision. Like, my mom can have some input. She can say what she needs to say, but then I still have to choose. Right? Like, you're a fan. You do have some input, but you don't have the final decision. How are you going to get mad when somebody does something that they want to do with their life? And how insane is it that this backlash is continuing? He made the league unfair. His move was weak. But you know what? If you don't make the decisions in your life that you need to make to move on, to progress in anywhere, your move is weak. That's the weak move there. To let other people tell you what to do with your own life. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Make sure to check us out on Noogaradio.com. Our phone number is 423-800-8949, 423-800-8949.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
7 have been arrested by the Chattanooga Police Department's Special Victims Unit. They've been conducting a major sweep, tracking down individuals who have outstanding warrants. 7 have been taken in so far, and 6 are still on the loose. A possible blow to short-term rental services like Airbnb, this time in Lookout Mountain, Georgia, where officials are proposing to allow a home-sharing program, but not short-term vacation rentals. Public hearing is set for Tuesday at 5 p.m. next week at the Lookout Mountain City Hall. The proposal would double down on the ban on short-term vacation rental services. Riverside Drive in between Market Street and West Martin Luther King Boulevard still facing closures while repairs are being made. Tennessee company Madison Mill is recalling some 25,000 fold-away safety gates for kids because of a risk of strangulation. Models 23 and 25 affected. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Becoming fair out there through your nighttime hours. Comfortable again overnight, lows into the upper 50s. For Friday, another very nice day. Lots of sunshine, highs settling into the lower 80s. For the weekend, more sunshine, dry, but getting hotter with highs upper 80s to near 90. It's time for Riverbend, starting this Friday with discounted admission now at area Circle K locations and savings on tokens at Food City. And with more information, their website, riverbendfestival.com. And I'm Source 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Hi, this is Eric Felton.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
7 have been arrested by the Chattanooga Police Department's Special Victims Unit. They've been conducting a major sweep, tracking down individuals who have outstanding warrants. 7 have been taken in so far, and 6 are still on the loose. A possible blow to short-term rental services like Airbnb, this time in Lookout Mountain, Georgia, where officials are proposing to allow a home-sharing program, but not short-term vacation rentals. Public hearing is set for Tuesday at 5 p.m. next week at the Lookout Mountain City Hall. The proposal would double down on the ban on short-term vacation rental services. Riverside Drive in between Market Street and West Martin Luther King Boulevard still facing closures while repairs are being made. Tennessee company Madison Mill is recalling some 25,000 fold-away safety gates for kids because of a risk of strangulation. Models 23 and 25 affected. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Becoming fair out there through your nighttime hours. Comfortable again overnight, lows into the upper 50s. For Friday, another very nice day. Lots of sunshine, highs settling into the lower 80s. For the weekend, more sunshine, dry, but getting hotter with highs upper 80s to near 90. It's time for Riverbend, starting this Friday with discounted admission now at area Circle K locations and savings on tokens at Food City. And with more information, their website, riverbendfestival.com. And I'm Source 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
He stole out so much cash, such a huge mountain of cash, that he's become a national star. Rick Davis, you know the story. Cash, 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 and more cash. People can't believe it. They want to see it. And now Rick Davis has a new TV show. National TV, USA and Canada. He's got the gold and silver, diamonds and rings. You get dizzy just thinking about it. Rick's selling, Rick's buying. Cash, 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 and more cash. And now a mountain of cash catching the Hollywood spotlight. You know where it is, Brainerd Road. Rick Davis, Gold and Diamonds. Cash, 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 and national TV cash. That's really big. Everyone wants to see it. Money flying out the door. Rick Davis is America's jeweler. It's better than Hollywood. It's right here. Cash, 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 and more cash. Rick Davis, Gold and Diamonds. Brainerd Road.
You love me. You really love me.
Hi, this is Eric Pelton. Taxes, accounting, business advice. I've got a neat brochure, 12 ways to improve your business profits. Come on by for a free consultation and we'll give you a copy. E.J. Pelton Company, 332-3339.
If I'm the city's most intelligent man, it's because I take 2 shots of Mind Enhancement Complex every day. Nature's Finest keeps me stocked with my mainstay, Formula 4. That's where I start. Formula 4. Industrial farming, soil depletion, mineral empty foods. I just say no. Ask about supplements, health, stamina, circulation, heart, prostate under control. Get the Nooga Radio David Tulis freebie. Save $2 on every 5. 20% off. Nooga Radio, the highway, nature's finest.
have the best steak selection in town. Name of the business is Don's Meat Shop, and I'm Donnie Raines. Just ask for Donnie. I make over 20 different types of sausages. Most of them are great for grilling. We have the best selection, best quality. We have the hard-to-find items. Don's Meat Shop.
When my brother and I opened the first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300 plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
Need a tiller to get things going for the spring? Spiff up your porch, maybe your deck? Come on by and get a pressure washer at Action Rental. Family in town? Need some tables and chairs for an event? Come on by and see us. Action Rental. This is Dan at Action Rental on Lee Highway. Come by and see me. Action Rentals.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree? Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM, and 95.3 HD4. News, talk, sports. Nooga Radio.
Bombshell
Alex
clips.
Jones
Bombshell
and the
clips.
GCN Radio
Bombshell
Network.
clips straight ahead. Everybody tune in now to your local stations. Vitamin Mineral Fusion. Visit InfoWarsLife.com to secure your canister. We have worked for years with our chemists and scientists to create the most powerful and affordable, great-tasting multivitamin formula available. Vitamin Mineral Fusion Drink Mix at InfoWarsLife.com is loaded with a full month supply of essential vitamins, minerals, and amino acids that your body absolutely needs. In the history of InfoWars Life, we brought out a lot.
You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. And I think that the SEC is going to have a better season. Last season was odd, was it not? There was a lot of underachieving. We thought LSU stunk, and then they didn't stink, and then they stunk. It was an up and down year for everybody, right? Ole Miss got off to a good start, and then Chad Kelly had those weird games, right? Like the Florida State game where they're up by 21, and then the Seminoles get right back in it and win it. And then the Alabama game where they're up by about 28, I believe, and they don't score in the second half. Jalen Hurts goes on an amazing performance, and Alabama pulls out the victory there. And so you're just like, well, it looks like Ole Miss was able to hand Alabama a lot. Nah, just kidding. No, we were wrong about that one. Right? In the East, everything was strange about that season in the East, right? Like we don't know if Butch Jones is actually a good football coach or not. And I suppose this is the year that we are going to find out, because there is no explanation for that Appalachian State game, how that even went down. Like, I'm still upset about that I had to sit down and like watch it and waste time and brain cells processing what that was. A team that Tennessee really should have just mashed into powder wound up being basically a near overtime game. Like, why? Why did that happen? Right? With arguably the best team that Tennessee has had in years. So now you got discouraged Tennessee fan. If Butch Jones couldn't do it last year, like, how's he going to do it this year? I don't know. Can Tennessee even win 7 games? Right? Like, it's difficult to say that they're going to win more than 7. I think so. I think Tennessee wins 8-9 games. Right? Like, I can find some wins for them on that schedule in a way that makes a lot of sense, at least to me. 7.5 games is what Vegas has given them. If I had to gamble, I would take the over on that, but it would be a scary gamble. It's not one that I would actually take, right? It would be scary. They could hit 8. They might win 7, which is why Vegas tries to catch you with that half game. Florida, good or not good? Well, that depends on the quarterback situation, right? They have effectively recruited Malik Zaire to be the quarterback down in Florida, and that's great. But Malik Zaire has not finished an entire season of college football in his entire college football career, now spanning 3 years.
How on earth are we supposed to continue that trend? Or like, we don't want to, but like I have to see it to believe it. Can Malik Zaire actually finish an entire season of college football? For that, I think you'd have to turn Malik Zaire into more of a pocket passer, but his legs are such a big part of what he does, and his mobility is so incredibly effective. So incredibly effective that it's pretty crazy. You wouldn't be able to properly use Malik Zaire without using his legs. But if you use his legs, you open him up to more shots. You open him up to more chances of injury. Right? But Florida won the East again with no real quarterback to speak of, right? The combination of Luke Del Rio and Austin Appleby. How does that happen? Right? Georgia steps forward or backward for Jacob Eason? I think steps forward because I just really like the guy. But the success of Georgia, I believe, almost literally hinges on how good he is. How good is Jacob Eason? Does he start to make the leap, right? Because if you don't start to make the leap in the sophomore year, we get worried. And if you haven't made the leap by the junior year, I'm not saying we give up on you, but it's a very... Your fan base shrinks significantly. How about we say it like that? The fan base shrinks significantly. And the Jacob Eason fanboys will go home. And the fact that Jake Fromm has shown up and people seem to like him in practice. And when I say people, I mean fans, not necessarily coaches. Fans seem to like watching him in practice. And there was some speculation that maybe we should just go with Fromm then, which that's insane. It's absolutely insane. But there was that mindset that came out of there. Who is Tennessee's quarterback? What are we doing there with the quarterback situation? Garantano, Dormady, nobody knows. Nobody knows. We'll probably end up with Dormady because we know Butch Jones doesn't ever take risks. Quentin Dormady is the safer quarterback to turn to here. So we'll probably turn to the safer quarterback here, that's not a problem. I think that's ultimately the right call. I think just watching the spring game, which is not a black and white cut and dry way of necessarily getting all of this information, but what I saw from Jared Garantano is a guy that's got all the physical tools but needs to polish them, and he's not very polished just yet. And I wouldn't throw him out there unless you really, really want to see what a lot of interceptions look like, because he's not accurate. Right? Like they did the accuracy drill after the game and he's wild, right? The dude is wild. He's the ball has the power, but it doesn't necessarily land where he wants it to land, which is a problem if you are a quarterback. So you've got all of those problems. Plus, how good can Vanderbilt be with Derek Mason as he continues his tenure as their coach? We're going to get an interesting season, but we've just gotten more quarterbacks. And I think that ultimately is the key, right? Like if Dormady is any good, Tennessee will be decent. And I think that he's going to be good enough. If Malik Zaire can stay healthy, Florida's going to be really good. If Jacob Eason can make the leap, Georgia's going to be really good. If Matt Canada can fire up Danny Etling, LSU's going to be really good. If Jarrett Stidham really goes out there and balls out, guess what? I think they're going to be really good. Auburn. We've got a lot of new quarterback faces. And to me, I understand that maybe I stress the quarterback a lot, and the quarterback is not necessarily the be all and end all in college football, quite the same way that it is in the NFL. Like you don't have a quarterback in the NFL, just forget competing for things. You're done. But it is important in college. It is important a lot to have a great quarterback, more so, I think, than anything else. And when you consider that a lot of these schools already have great defenses, you really are just looking for that guy to man the ship, to just take over and carry you in any particular kind of direction. And that's what Nick Saban found in Jalen Hurts. He didn't necessarily find the most accurate passer or the guy with the strongest arm or a guy that was even very consistent from week in to week out. What you have in Jalen Hurts is a guy that's capable of manning the ship. He can make plays with his legs if you ask him to make plays with his legs. When Nick Saban ran him like a running back, he had like 20 carries a game for a 3-game stretch last season. You have a guy that can make throws when he needs to make throws, right? And made a lot of big plays in big games like LSU last year, where, again, the score was 3-3 for most of that game, right? And there goes Jalen Hurts at the very end, breaks off a very large run and gives Alabama a chance to punch it in. And they capitalize. You need that on your team. And I feel like very many SEC schools did not necessarily have that last year. Didn't necessarily have that. And now you've got Stidham and Shea Patterson and Kyle Shermer and Drew Lockley and Austin Allen, who is the truth. You've got a lot of faces in the SEC that can play the quarterback position very well. So I'm very excited to see exactly what it is that we look like this year. And I imagine it's not going to look quite so down. Okay. In football is an interesting sport. One season does not tell you everything you need to know about a player, team, or conference. Right? One down season does not a bad SEC team make, or a bad SEC conference make, right? Like you need multiple years of underachieving to honestly look at a team and go, yeah, they're a team that doesn't necessarily have it all together. That you need more than one season to say that. And it's funny because I listen to national radio, I listen to podcasts all the time, and it's just hilarious. I sit down and I listen and I hear everybody go, oh, the SEC's gone. They're ruined. It's finished. Ding dong, the witch is dead. And I'm looking at the games. I go back and watch games from last year because I'm a nerd. And I have nothing better to do. And what I end up looking at, and I'm like, are we watching the same conference? Like, yeah, SEC struggled to score points last year. But that's about it. The defenses were still suffocating. And the schools that did have a quarterback did perform well. They did. So you've got all that. And then, of course, the storylines of the coaches, I think, which is the best part, which is who's gone next year. Can we all agree that Kevin Sumlin's probably gone next year? Kevin Sumlin's probably gone next year. Like he's moving from Trevor Knight, who was as good a quarterback as he has ever gotten. He's moving from Trevor Knight to some guy. I remember his name. I read his name somewhere. Guy's a game manager. Some guy. Kevin Sumlin has proven, if nothing, that he at least needs a quarterback in order to be successful. Right? Like Sumlin's gone. Right? And now there's less money that they would owe him were they to fire him. I feel like Kevin Sumlin is gone. Right? That to me seems very, very overt and very obvious. The question here is for Butch Jones, for instance. Does Butch Jones have a hot seat next year? Probably not, but it depends. Because if Tennessee loses some of these big games and they lose them badly, that's not going to look good for him. Right? I don't think Butch Jones needs to win a bunch of games. I think he needs to win about 7 or 8, because that's the expectation anyhow. He needs to win about 7 or 8, and he needs to beat Georgia and Florida, right? No chance in hell they beat Alabama, but they need to beat Georgia and Florida, at least. If somewhere in the 7, you get the bragging rights in the division, then you get to stick around. Because like one thing that can extend you a little bit is beating your rivals. And the one thing that can drop you is not beating your rivals. This is why, even though Hugh Freeze has the NCAA as the enemy at the gates, pounding on the door, asking for Ole Miss to release him, Ole Miss has thrown themselves behind Hugh Freeze. Do we really think that Hugh Freeze is going to win more than 6 games next year? Because they probably won't. I would be shocked if they win 5. absolutely floored. I don't know that Hugh Freeze is necessarily the greatest coach. I thought one thing I liked about him was his recruiting, and he's being investigated for the legality of his recruiting. Why would you ever stand behind Hugh Freeze? Because Hugh Freeze beat Alabama not once, but twice. And that'll save your bacon. If you're Butch Jones, try and figure out in some way, and I don't know how you do it, but you get your coaching staff and all of you guys put your heads together and figure out how you're going to come up with a win over Georgia, figure out how you're going to come up with a win over Florida. And if you really, really, really can squeeze one out, see if you can squeeze out some kind of victory against Alabama. If you do those 3 games, yeah, you really don't even have to win the rest of them. To be honest with you, you've earned yourself another year. Oh, look, these are the schools that we beat in our down year. You really don't have to win the rest of them. Beating your rivals saves your job. It extends you a little bit longer, even in a season that you're not winning, which is why I look at Jim Harbaugh up in the Big Ten, and he's not in trouble of losing his job, right? Like Jim Harbaugh, if Jim Harbaugh wants to coach at Michigan for the rest of his life, they would let him. But people do get frustrated with him up there because who has Jim Harbaugh managed to beat? Their big rivals are Michigan State. Nope. Ohio State. Nope. Penn State. Once. Like, you've got to beat the big bosses in the conference. Right? That'll save your job. So I don't necessarily know what you do if you're Butch Jones. But you got to figure out how to come away with a victory. 2 out of those 3 need to be some kind of win. And I don't care if you beat them, 6-2. You got to come out with some kind of win on this. Even if it's a grinded out, boring game, people will take the win. Okay? They'll take the victory. And my favorite non-storyline is Kirby Smart versus Mark Richt, right? Like, they're not playing Miami this year, but Mark Richt has been doing a very good job down in Miami as their head coach. And if Mark Richt, in 2 seasons of being away from Georgia, turns Miami into anything on the borderlines of special, do you feel bad if you're Georgia? Right? Like, if Mark Richt is super successful next year and Kirby Smart is not, on a scale of 1 to 10, if you're a Georgia fan, how mad are you? Right? Because there is not a small contingency, a decent contingency of people who are like, why did you fire Mark Richt? Like, why? He was a very good football coach. Now, granted, you can't necessarily put him in like sort of that Bob Stoops lane. The Bob Stoops lane was Bob Stoops can't seem to win it in the big ones, except Bob Stoops did win a lot of big ones. He also won a national title. Mark Richt did not win a national title, but he's building something at Miami that's very, very interesting. If he's way more successful than you, it's like losing a breakup, right? Like, you break up with somebody, and then what's the first thing that people do when they break up? They go to the gym. What they're trying to do is win the breakup. Like, I'm going to look good. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to get a better job. Why? Because when you run into your ex later on, you do not want to look like the person who is losing that breakup. You don't want to. Okay? I haven't gone through any breakups like that. I just know people who have. And like, I had a friend who broke up with his girlfriend, went to the gym every day for 4 hours, and got enormous. Just like bodybuilder sized. Why? Because he wasn't about to look worse than her. Right? He just wasn't about to. You're Georgia. You don't want to be looking worse than Miami. You don't want to be looking worse than Mark Richt right now. That is not a good look. It does not play well, which is unfortunate, right? Because Kirby Smart doesn't deserve all this pressure. What has Kirby Smart done to deserve any of this pressure? He's been the coach for exactly 1 season. All of this pressure is falling on Kirby Smart. Like if Georgia goes out and underachieves next year, because I think we can all agree that at least on the offensive side of the ball, they have a very good football team, right? They can run. Jacob Eason, if he progresses the way that he's supposed to, gives them playmaking ability at the quarterback position. So I very much respect and appreciate what it is that Georgia is capable of doing. I don't know how the defense is going to do, but I can't imagine another year of Kirby Smart, another year of understanding what he wants from his team, doesn't help them get better. And I picked Georgia to win the East. And I waffled on it. I waffled on it when Malik Zaire went to Florida. I thought, well, let me switch over to Florida here. But then I realized Malik Zaire does not finish entire seasons of college football. He's never done it. The most he's ever played in a single season is 8 games. And that's the one thing that Florida struggled with. Every time they get a quarterback, the guy either gets suspended or injured. Right? And that's a problem. Jim McElwain's won despite it, but that's obviously a problem, you know? So I'm looking at it and I go, let me just stick with Georgia. I'm going to stick with Georgia. I think Georgia wins the East. I think they roll up on Alabama or Auburn for the conference championship. And if that happens, then I feel like Kirby Smart gets vindicated in a sort of way. I think that people are a little bit happier with him. He gets a lot more rope because he is in a very high pressure situation, right? They hired Kirby Smart to just fix a problem. The problem was there was no problem, right? Like you're not coming away with national titles, which is what Georgia wants because that's what Georgia expects every year, even when they have no reason to expect it. And you're not winning necessarily conference titles either. But you were following a very winning coach. You're following a successful act, a very winning coach, and they brought you in to fix the problem of win some more. That's the problem. We want you to win some more. That's a tough problem to fix. That's a very difficult problem to ask a guy to just come in and fix. If he can somehow do that, if he can somehow pull that out, Kirby Smart will be solidified for a lot longer. Watch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Remember, folks, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch, and I'll see you in 24 hours.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM.
Competent, kind, caring, knowledgeable, experienced, great listener, great negotiator, in touch, accessible. If these are the characteristics